Hey, this is Greg Hoyt from The Breakdown. If you're new here and checking out the channel on YouTube, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Also, feel free to follow me on Twitter at GregHoytLET. Anyway, let's get on to the video.
All right, this is Greg Hoyt from Red Voice Media, and I've got Jeff Charles from RedState. And he has a little bit of a interesting quirk to him associated with his conduct on social media and his posts with prefacing kind of satirical posts with the word breaking in all caps. And not that long ago, a Disney blog, Inside the Magic, I believe is the name of the blog, wound up running one of his tweets as though it were a legitimate story where, well, why don't you regale the folks with it?
Yeah, I do so many of these. I don't remember that exact one, but I've had a few of my satirical tweets be picked up by media outlets. It kind of goes to show you how people will run with things without actually double checking them first, because you can easily run a Google search and see that it was a joke, but they do it anyway. But I've had them picked up quite a bit.
Yeah, no. If memory serves me right, I believe in this instance it was a satirical tweet in relation to the pushback over the Little Mermaid casting. I call it a non-controversy, you know what I mean? Because the media made it be a bigger deal than what it really was. I saw more articles about people claiming to be offended at the movie than I saw actual offense over the movie itself.
Well, I think that whole thing started even before the movie came out, because they had cast a black woman as Ariel, and some people were up in arms about it, others were arguing about it. The whole thing was goofy.
Yeah, I know, because it was funny. You proclaimed Daily Wire was producing a movie with Michael Knowles starring as Michael X in a biopic film. And this Disney blog, they wrote an entire article about this thing and just throwing outrage left and right. How can this person play a black man?
That was hilarious. And Michael Knowles got a kick out of that too. He started following me because of it. Yeah, that was hilarious. And it's funny because people thought I was making fun of the left, and people on the left thought I was making fun of the right. I was making fun of everybody.
Well, yeah, no, but it also goes to show that the fact that a blog, but also media outlets of repute sometimes wind up taking satirical tweets and commentary and reporting on it as real news, which it goes to show that satire and reality, they're not so far divorced from each other at this point.
Not in 2022, no. I mean, the key to satire is to exaggerate to the point to where people know that it's not real, but you're making a point. But in 2022, everything is so crazy that even if I exaggerate, there'll still be a good chunk of people who think it's real, and sometimes those people happen to be in the media. I'm just glad that the FBI didn't, crack down on me like they did with other people before Elon Musk.
So one thing that I really appreciate with following you on Twitter and what have you is you're one of the voices in the conservative space, conservative news media, that is able to address and dissect the nuance associated with particularly the Republican Party, conservative politics, and the black community, because sometimes Republicans miss the mark, or they're not really good at addressing legitimate grievances associated with minority communities. So what's your take on that, and how do you navigate some of those frustrations?
A lot of the problem is, when people say that the right is reactionary, there's a lot of truth to that. I mean, we don't like to hear it, but it's true. So what happens is that you have the far left, and they pretend that, America is so racist that there's a KKK member behind every tree waiting to lynch me. But then what happens on the right is they just react. So they don't react with logic, they react with emotion. So they go to the direct opposite end of the spectrum and saying, oh no, there is no racism. The truth is more in the middle. So we need people who are going to be adults in the room to really address the issues honestly. Acknowledging that there's racism in America and that it has an impact doesn't make you Sean King or AOC. You can talk about these things without going that far. As a matter of fact, we should be the ones being the adults in the room, because the left is never going to be honest about it. If we want to actually deal with these issues, it's going to be up to people on the right. So that's why I get on the right so much about this, because I don't expect any better from the left. I expect it from the right. So that's kind of where I take a more nuanced look at these things.
So one thing that I'm curious about is, with the left, they typically, even though the left loves employing intersectionality aspects when it comes to fomenting movements, protesting, things like that, they also weaponize intersectionality on the right by proclaiming, because let's face it, there's probably, some unsavory people in conservative politics that have some horrible, abhorrent, racist views, and they may agree on certain things, on certain views that you have, based solely upon being in the conservative space. What issue or hypocrisy do you see with the left's weaponization of happenstance intersectionality within the conservative movement?
Well, right off the bat, it's the fact that they don't really believe what they say. One of the things I always say is that if you want to know if somebody actually believes in a principle that they claim to espouse, look at how they apply it when it's not politically beneficial. So if somebody on the left, great example, Clarence Thomas, earlier this year, there are plenty of people on the left using the N-word on him, using racial epithets, and you didn't see anybody on the left condemning that. But if somebody on the right had said it, they'd be, again, all up in arms about it. So they don't really mean what they say. And it's important to understand with the far left, they don't see bigotry as an evil that needs to be addressed. They see it as a weapon to be used against people they don't like. And that's all they see it as. They don't want to solve the problem. They just want to use it. So that's where a lot of that hypocrisy comes into play. And the thing is, the fact of the matter, black Democrats will tell you that there are plenty of racists in the Democratic Party. They just hide it better. It's different. I mean, Malcolm X said, he said the difference between a racist on the right and a racist on the left is that the one on the right doesn't hide it as well, but the one on the left will pretend to be your friend, which makes them more dangerous. So I think that that's the issue. And they're not really, unfortunately, neither side is really willing to take an honest look at these things. But again, like I said before, there's one side that seeks to weaponize it, and that's why I don't really deal with them, because they don't want to solve the problem. If they do, then they lose a weapon.
Very well put, very well put. Once again, thank you. Why don't you tell the folks where they can find you?
Yeah, so you can read my stuff on RedState.com. I also write for LibertyNation.com. My podcast is A Fresh Perspective with Jeff Charles, and you can get me on Twitter at Jeff on the Right.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
All right, thanks.